and then I'm gonna be in the doghouse again.
You don't edit with headphones on?
No.
Okay, this is on you then.
No.
This is definitely
You think
on
I want a head lump? You think I want a head ridge like you see all the streamers do?
That's not how it works.
I think it is.
Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Paulo.
And my name is Matt, and we have spent the last week with the newly refreshed Acura TLX Type S. We've had a week with this. I've had 7 months with this.
2.5 years with this. And
these all compete pretty closely with one another. So today we're going to break it down and see just how they compete.
No, but you didn't every night I had this overwhelming sensation that our house was going to get broken into. In River Hills, mind you.
Dude, the thing that I'm freaked out about now, have you seen more of this online? People living in people's attics?
Yeah.
Dude, that scares the shit out of me.
God, if I wanted to
I'm glad you decided to wear closed-toed shoes today,
I know.
So I don't have to blur your feet.
I was literally going to text you and be like, should we do the blur thing again?
Should we do the blur? You could just take the shoe off throughout the video.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, let's start what we normally do, engine and power.
Yes, so let's just start from the side. So B58, 3-liter straight six, mild hybrid for 2021, 382 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque.
Yep.
Does have an exhaust on it that adds power, whatever. This 3-liter V6 twin turbo, 355 horsepower, 354 pound-feet. I don't know what you're making.
Yeah, well, just stock. So 3.3 liter twin turbo V6, 365 horsepower, 376 pound-feet of torque.
Okay, so this is definitely the least in the bunch.
Yeah, and it's also actually the heaviest by about 350 pounds. So it has the lowest. Great.
Why do we only shoot under flight paths now?
Sorry about that. But like I was saying, this has the lowest power to weight ratio since it weighs 350 pounds more than the M340 and the G70.
That's a big margin. And to be honest, I could feel it behind the wheel.
So could I.
This feels very punchy, especially off the line, and there's just torque everywhere. This still feels quick, but noticeably a half step less, for sure. And yours feels very quick, especially now that you've tuned it.
Yeah, but I would say even if you turn it off, I think it goes slowest, in the middle, M340 fastest.
Sure. I think so, probably.
Transmissions, so you already mentioned you have the ZF 8-speed.
Yeah,
incredibly
that's very, very
smooth
good box.
In casual driving, and when you're at the limit, it's really snappy. It's a great gearbox.
Yeah, it's not quite DCT when you're really, really on it, but it's nice and sharp on the track. It lets me do what I want to do. Yeah. If I want to downshift up towards the red line, it's going to let me do it. If I want to hang out up at the red line, it's not going to automatically shift for me. The 10-speed, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know, at what point in the video do we say this is an 8/10 car? Because it is best enjoyed not at the absolute limit of performance, but just scaled back half a breath.
Yeah, but I'd say 98% of people aren't going to take it to that limit.
That's exactly what I think.
Yes.
Know thyself. Know that you're not a racing driver. These are luxury sedans that are sporty. And on the spectrum of sporty luxury sedan, this is definitely on the luxury side.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that it's not quick, because I think the thing that hurts this is where the engine is placed, where the weight is placed. It's a bit up front. The engine hangs over in front of the front axle, so you get a little bit of understeer, which we'll talk in a minute. But then the transmission is just, in manual mode, it's a little bit slow. In auto, it's a bit better, but then it's also just kind of hanging gears when I don't need it to be. And then when I am going into a corner, it's not quite in the right gear, so it's just not quite intuitive. I
feel like it has too many gears as well, but I will say in comfort mode, you can't even tell that it's shifting. It's incredibly smooth in comfort mode. One thing about the engine, though, I do like how you can hear the turbo spool in this.
Yeah.
And I do wish the exhaust was a little bit louder.
Yeah.
And then in the
It sounds pretty good from the outside. When you pulled up, it sounded pretty good. But inside, it's so refined and sedate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The G70, I think, has the worst transmission out of the bunch. So 8-speed, you can't go into full manual mode.
You can't really do that here either, because you've got the D and the S, right?
Yeah, you can put it in. So you can put it in a sport.
Right. But then it'll still eventually change a gear for you.
Yes, but I still think it handled it better than the G70.
Sure.
And there's also a wacky thing with my generation where, depending on how you drive it, it will shift very aggressively if it thinks you do that on a regular basis. It'll like get used to how you shift and then shift really hard.
Could you be talking about when we were on track and you were in smart mode?
Yes, exactly. But even I got it reset.
Yes.
And then it still does that. So
Oh, really?
I think they sorted it out with the new generation. I would still say though that I think it's, the new generation I'd say is probably par with the Type S, a little bit behind the M340. That definitely has the best transmission, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this in a number of videos, not just this one, but like anytime that we're talking about like this powertrain, B58, ZF with the X-Drive and the M Sport diff, like it's just a clinic in powertrains and power deployment. It's not the most characterful. I would argue that your sound has a little bit more warmth to it, and I've done some of that with the AWE, but like this is just a clinic. It gets incredible power, it's incredibly efficient. Yeah, it just gets it done so well. So it's not exactly fair.
But fuel economy, so you get 28 to 32 in the M340, which is crazy.
I've even gotten like mid to high 30s on like just highway and eco mode.
Yeah,
which is just outrageous.
That is insane. The TLX and the Genesis, they get about the same, averaging about 24, 23.
Yeah.
On the highway, obviously it gets a bit more, like 27, 28, but they're pretty close together.
Yeah.
I just feel like the M340, I literally think is Beauty and the Beast if you're in like standard or comfort mode versus or eco versus sport.
I can't believe it does it both ways.
Yeah,
and a lot of that is due to the mild hybrid, because I can feel the engine turning itself off, and then when it does and it's working with the mild hybrid, it just coasts. Like there's seemingly no resistance.
Yeah.
So there's nothing slowing the car down. There's no engine braking. There's no revs. It's just getting unlimited MPG for those few seconds here and there, and that goes a long way.
Let's jump into spirited driving, and then we'll go casual driving.
Yes. I like mine. It could do with a little bit more tire, but with the X to PS9, PS91s from Kumo, they're a great grip. It's a great balance between that eco and that performance. I think the chassis is really well balanced. The differential lets you rotate and play a little bit with power. The steering is a little bit heavy, but it's really direct. And then the Acura.
Well, I would just say I think yours is very stiff, but you kind of want it to be when you're driving it.
Yeah, in terms of, if we're going to talk spirited, it's probably where it should be if we're going to talk spirited. Now, when we talk about daily casual, we'll talk about something else.
The Type S, I mean, you said that you experience like a lot of understeer, and that has to do with where the engine is. And again, I'd say for like the vast majority on a day-to-day basis, they're really not going to notice it. Like it feels sharp when you're 0.8 of the way there. It feels sharp enough.
Yes, no, that's 100% it, is just like up to 8, maybe even approaching 9/10. This car feels really, really dynamic. The steering is really, really fast. There's not a lot of feel to it, but the steering is incredibly fast. The super handling all-wheel drive, the diff in the back keeps up with it until you get to that last 10th, until you're like really gonna get into a corner, unload the brakes, and then try to get, like if you don't really get your braking done and take the speed off, the front end just doesn't like it. It is just going to push. And inherently that's kind of going to happen, but I do notice it more with this than I do with the M340 and even with your car. Your car has incredible steering. It's my favorite thing about your car.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of my favorite things about that too. And I would just say, like with the Tune now, I think my car has a bit more spirit. It's like it's more fun to drive than I think these three, because it kind of has a bit of a personality.
Sure.
Stock, now if we were to just talk about stock, I still think the M340 is a bit more fun to drive spirited.
Sure.
But again, if I were to rank these in terms of like spirited driving experience, it would go M340, G70, Type S. I just think the Type S
That's been the order so far, with everything.
Yep. I think that will change.
But it's going to change with the next thing we talk about, I think.
Yes, I think so too. So casual driving, day to day.
Now it's reverse order for me. Now it's this.
Yep.
This rides so well.
Yeah.
Like I said before, on the spectrum of sport luxury sedans, this is the luxury component. To me, in my mind, this is a luxury car that they added a big motor to. Not that's obviously being obtuse about it. They've done a lot more stuff, and it is a great handling car. But like, it does err on that side of luxury first. The cabin is really isolated. The leathers are really good, and we'll talk about that stuff. But it's just the ride. This is a luxury car, and the BMW, reminds me every single day. You wanted something that had the M letter on it.
Yeah.
You wanted that. So here it is.
Yeah, and I think, like, to your point, just the seats, the ride, the suspension in the Type S, it's just all there.
Yeah.
It's very, especially in comfort, like you literally can't tell that you're shifting. It is smooth.
No, it rides beautifully. Like we said, up to that 8/10.
Yeah.
From just casual putting around to 8/10, this is a fabulous car.
And then the M340 is a little bit too stiff for my liking. You don't have the adaptive suspension, so
Correct.
that is,
Yep.
I think, the recommendation we would both make if you were going to go the route of an M340.
No run flats, adaptive suspension.
And Kaylee's car has the same issue. X3 M40, she doesn't have the adaptive suspension, and it's stiff.
Yeah.
So
I haven't
yeah, I
even
would
been
say
in it yet.
in terms of like we need to take it to the track or something.
We gotta do something.
But in terms of like casual driving, Type S, G70, M340.
Yeah. Yeah, yours does a great job splitting the balance, I think. This is very luxury, that's very sport. I think yours is like the Goldilocks zone.
In the middle,
In
yep.
terms of that dual split personality that we always talk about. The ride is great. The steering is fantastic. Nice tight chassis.
Looks.
We both agree here.
I think so too. This is the best
This
looking one.
Looks so good.
Yeah.
I love the look here. Now they've done some stuff to clean it up. They've gotten rid of the like plexi shield that was all, here on the front grille. Not a lot else has changed, at least not on the exterior, but it looks fantastic. Now this is like urban gray or something, but Acura has that gold, that tiger eye metallic, that really
Yeah, that looks
rich
really good
gold
too.
color. Oh,
I think this looks really good too. I'd be between specs on that.
100%.
I think
This looks great as it sits.
This looks the most sporty, which is kind of interesting since it's technically the least sporty.
Yes.
In terms of like a power to weight ratio, and
Yes.
they definitely they are on the side of like comfort.
Yes. No, it definitely, it looks the look. It walks the walk. For
And
sure.
but the other thing that I want to talk about a little bit later is it is massive. It is about 1.5 feet longer than both of our cars. It's actually, in terms of dimensions on the exterior, it's closer to a 5 Series than a 3 Series. But
Yeah.
interior space, which we'll talk about later again, it's not there. So
Yeah.
I think the M340, like your spec is awesome. That's like exactly how I would spec it, but I do just think they're pretty generic.
Yeah.
The G70, I think they're really unique. You don't see a lot of them. I prefer the older generation, mine, versus the newer one, but I think
Would agree.
they look really good. They're unique. It's always fun to see one on the streets, but
Yeah, well, especially one that's like been done up a little bit. Like it does feel special. 'Cause
Yeah.
You don't see them that often.
right. But I still think the Type S is just the best looking. Like the little
It looks fantastic.
aero kit that they have, you have a nice
Yeah.
spoiler.
Yeah, well, this one's got the wing that I want on my car.
Yeah,
it's like the
it's-
Adro wing with the fang, and I'm
And
like,
then
what?
The
Here it
quad
is.
exhaust on this looks, I mean,
That's-
it's just great.
That's the business. If it sounded even just a little bit better, I'd be like,
I know.
Let's have it.
It needs to sound like
Let's
yours.
have it.
Yeah. No, it's really good.
it's really good. One thing that I just want to touch on real quick before we go, Acura's gotten a lot of crap for being late to the Nardo Gray theme. Fair enough. But this is not exactly what I consider a Nardo Gray because it does have metal flake in
Yeah.
it. It has dimension to it. There's a metallic-iness to it. And almost like in direct sunlight in like midday, it gets like a hue shift where it almost has like an iridescent like pinkish or like a warmth that comes out of it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. It's
It's-
gorgeous.
Freaking good.
Yeah.
This is a very good looking car.
Yeah. I think it's the best looking, no doubt. Rear seats, yours is definitely has the most room,
I think
without a
so.
doubt.
Yeah, I think so.
I think then it would go mine, and then the Type S has the
I
least
would
amount
agree.
of room.
Which is funny considering we just said that this is like a foot longer than each of our cars.
Yeah, so
and
we-
there's a huge like drivetrain hump down the center of
Yeah,
the back seat too.
I think this is probably a good time to speak about it. Like it's
Yeah.
the biggest out of the three,
Yep.
yet interior space, it's either in the middle or the least.
Yeah.
So rear seat room, the least. Trunk space, it's right in the middle between
Yeah, true.
the M340 and that.
True,
but we'll,
true.
we'll get to trunk space.
If your floor wasn't so weirdly high in your car, it would be about this same size.
Yeah.
Your floor is just weirdly high in your trunk. But yes, the rear seat here is, I hit my head a little bit. It's a little tight on headroom. Knee room is okay. I'm 6'1", you're about 6'10".
The knee room was my problem, not
Really?
necessarily the
I ran
headroom,
into
yeah.
headroom. Maybe we're just different proportions.
We are, I
We're
think.
just, we're just built different.
You have a longer torso than me.
Yeah, I guess so. A swimmer's body, I guess.
Yeah.
Michael Phelps with it. But the thing that I did notice was headroom and then the drivetrain tunnel in the center.
Yeah.
And then yours is it's a little tight, but it's still livable for a
Right.
6-footer.
All right, luxury build materials.
I think I like this. I think it's this, Genesis, mine. I think even with, because obviously I've got the Sensatech, so I've got the poverty spec interior. But you can get the Vernasca, which is nicer leather, and that's great. But I still think even with that, it just doesn't, it's put together really well. The build quality is incredible. Even with the stiff ride, nothing's rattled loose, nothing's shaken loose. So like nothing creaks or anything, but there's not really, like none of the materials make me feel like special.
Right.
But the leather work in here is really, really good. You've got that two-tone with the leather and the Alcantara down the seats.
Yep.
The red is really, really classy. It's not the like bright cherry racing red. And then the little tiny attention to detail that they do with like the volume knob and like some of the steering wheel controls. Like there's just a nice weight to it and like tactility to it that's satisfying to me.
Yeah, well, I also think the G70 and the Type S do a good job of making you feel more special in the interior, where the M340 just feels very generic, cookie cutter in a sense. The Type S, I feel like they spent time and attention and detail where they needed to. Like even the stop button is just incredibly refined, and you can just tell it's like made of good build quality.
Yeah.
But I also like
it's
how
got that white glow to it, and then it turns red when you turn it on.
Yes.
I think that's kind of cool.
And then the steering wheel, it has a flat bottom. You have Type S in the headrest. Like it just makes you feel special inside.
Yeah.
I will say where they kind of skimped a little bit is on the roof. So it's a manual shade for your pano.
Yeah.
And then like the sunglass cover is like the cheapest Honda Civic plastic I've like ever seen in my life.
Probably is from an Accord or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
But-
I like the interior here. I'm just gonna say you also have cooled seats in
Yes.
yours. So you got cooled seats on both of the non-Germans. It's almost as if they know that the Germans own this segment, so they're like, we got to bring something, and
Yeah.
they really do with the interior, for sure.
Yeah. No, I
Definitely nicer interiors than this.
I like both of these interiors. If I had to pick one though, I think the Type S. Like it's just the two-tone
It's
and
good.
the seats just
The leather is really nice.
yeah, it's just a good experience in there. And I really
Totally.
like the gear selector, how that's incorporated into the Senate. Like it's just all
Oh,
fun
you like
up.
the push button?
Yeah, I do,
That's a hot
actually.
take.
But the McLaren was the same way.
Yeah.
So
I
I
don't
like that.
I don't not like it. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
There was one other thing that stood out to me, and it's the smallest thing that you could really comment on, but the squish that you get from like the center console where you rest your elbow in between the front seats in the Acura, magnifique.
Well, even where your knees are, it's like really
Padded?
padded very well, and it actually
It's
makes
that little
sense.
stuff.
Like where your knees fall in this car. Like it's
yeah,
just
we were in the Ioniq 5, and it's like, oh, we'll put padding on the side, but not actually where
your
knee
knee hits. Yeah. Yeah.
This is done very well from an interior standpoint.
Yeah, so then if we talk tech, I think it's hard to compare the G70 from a tech perspective since this is the older gen. The newer gen gets a bigger screen. But
Anyway.
I will say, like, I actually don't know. Does the new gen G70 offer wireless Apple CarPlay? I know these two do.
That's a good question, because this is a Hyundai family vehicle, and most of them weren't offering it until like this year.
Yeah.
So it might be like an over-the-air thing if your car is
you
equipped
can
with
get
over-the-air.
it, yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I think it's going to be, no, it's definitely going to be corded. Because I just did a review on the new GV80, and it still had wired
I think it's wired
until
too.
you go to the over-the-air update.
This center console infotainment system has to be controlled with the touchpad, and there's a lot of people online that say that you get used to it.
No.
I would say I still prefer physically touching or interacting with the screen.
Yeah.
Like this is where it falls short, like the tech stack for me.
Well, and it's kind of like the Mazda thing where it's weird because like in the native UI, it's the ultimate proximity touch. So top left is top left, and then whatever. But then you go into CarPlay, which is wireless, and that's cool. But like then it's more like a normal trackpad where you can like scroll a little bit, and but it's like also like kind of laggy then. So
Well-
it just needs an update, and I know that they're working on it. So
I
it'll
also
come.
didn't like I would move and then I would take my finger off to click. But if you do that, it'll actually move what you selected. So
Yep.
you have to move and then click, and that just felt awkward in certain areas of the trackpad to me.
Yeah.
Um,
And then the scrolling to like go to different pages, like it felt backwards.
yeah.
Maybe that's something you can change in settings.
I will say that like the digital dash on the Type S is really good. Yours is obviously the best digital dash, I think, even compared to the new generation, the G70. But the animations of the Type S and like the the colors that you get, the resolution of the screens in here is really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the commands. It's just the
Yep.
UI.
Yeah.
Because like the actual software and like it's quick. It works pretty well. It's just like the silly trackpad. So once they get that sorted out, and I'm sure you get used to it, whatever, but like we had it for a week and didn't really get used to it.
Driving assist features, I think they're all pretty much on par. Like they don't have super. Well, wait. Well, yours
Mine doesn't have anything.
Well,
but you
no, but you
can
can
get
option
you can
it,
get Drive
yeah.
Pilot Pro.
I think, but you can option these to be more, offer more features from like a driver assist like perspective than you can in the BMW for like a way cheaper price.
Yeah. The TLX, I did a little bit of highway. I didn't do like a super grueling test. It did ping pong a little bit.
Yeah.
Not enough to like totally infuriate me and make it like unusable. It's still like a helpful and beneficial system for sure.
Yeah.
It's just something I noticed versus some of the other more modern competitors.
Mm-hmm.
So just something to know. But yeah, the tech I think is solid. It's just a little cumbersome.
So then price, we got G70 starts at $50,000 for rear wheel, all wheel drive is $2,000 more. The TLX starts at $57,000, but that's basically fully loaded.
Yeah.
And then the M340 starts at $59,000 for rear and
Well, that's with nothing on it.
yeah, $61,000 for xDrive.
Yes. Yeah. So by the time these two, the G and the TLX, are like comparable with tech and options and stuff, they're about the same price. The G might be a little bit more, but they're pretty similar. This is going to be a couple grand more for sure.
Definitely. Yeah,
For sure.
maybe 5 to 10
Yes.
for the
Not
same
10,
spec.
but yes. But
Same spec.
Yes.
And you actually can't get cooled seats, so these would have superior
I
specs.
know. My lower back would be so sad in the summer. It is sad in the summer. So I think when it comes down to price, it's you have to really, and we've been hitting on this the whole video, like you have to know yourself. You have to know like what you want out of your car. You have to be realistic and honest, because like there's definitely times I'm not driving this thing on the track all the time. I'm not driving this thing 10/10 all the time. Sometimes I'm just going to the corner or I'm just going to the studio or something, and like it's loud and it's really, really bumpy, and I don't always want that.
And you wish you had cooled seats.
And I wish I was in this.
Yeah.
So like there's been a few times this week where I got in this, I threw my cooled seat on, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm in the TLX right now and not my car.
Yeah, I mean, I think this thing has the reliability. It's going to be cheaper on maintenance. I think it looks the business. And it's definitely faster than most of your sedans out there. It's just not the quickest out of these three.
Right. I think what we have here is actually a really good spectrum
It is.
of
You're
this
absolutely
class,
right.
because this is the far end of the performance spectrum. This is the far end of the luxury end of the spectrum, and then yours is a very good middle.
Yeah.
A very good middle.
So knowing that and knowing yourself, you can probably pretty easily determine which car you'd pick.
Yeah. And with that, thank you to Acura for letting us have a go in your TLX. Leave it down in the comments which of these three you'd have, or if you'd have the C43.
Yeah, well, I guess
S4.
we should also, I think, quickly say, if you could have any of these, would you still pick your M340?
That's a good question, because it really depends on the day.
Well,
Like,
okay, just in general, though. Probably yes.
I still would pick this.
Yeah.
I would get this with the adaptive dampers. I would still probably get it. But there's a big part of me that would look to this, especially with how much money you're saving. And if I could get it in the gold, the Tiger Eye Pearl, this is a hot car.
Yeah.
And yours is still very, very solid as well. What would you pick?
Yeah, because I'm interested in the M80.
M850.
Yeah, sorry, yes. And so it's like, well, then I probably wouldn't want an M340i.
Right.
So I think I'd honestly still pick the G70. Like, I'm like really content with it now.
So the good news is we're happy people.
We are very happy
and we
people.
make good choices for ourselves.
Yes, that is a good thing.
We're very at peace with ourselves.
We
here on Downshift.
we don't want a new car every 3 years like we used to.
Well,
or 2 years.
you know.
Yeah.
I've had this for 7 months. And I'm like, maybe I need something.
Okay, well,
yes.
yeah, let us down in the comments. Let us know which one you guys would pick.
Yes. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.